I'd like to call the Monday, July 15, 2019 Oakwood City Council meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me with the pledge to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a roll call, please, Lori?
Mayor Duncan?
Here.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Here.
Mr. Stevens?
Here.
Mrs. Hilton?
Here.
Mr. Epling?
Here.
Thank you. And may I have a report on the minutes of our June 3rd regular session and work session and our June 17 work session? Mrs. Hilton.
Yes, Your Honor, I've reviewed the minutes from all three of those meetings, and I found them to be correct and complete, and therefore I move that they be adopted as written.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So ordered. I believe we have no status reports tonight. Is that correct? And then we will go to the visitors section. This is the time that people, if they want to address council, would come down and speak to council about any issues. We do have a public hearing coming up tonight related to Sugar Camp Master Plan. So if you'll have an opportunity at that point during the legislation section if you want to talk about that issue related to the public hearing. But if you have any other issues you would like to address council on, this would be the time for you to do that. And you could come down to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and we would welcome you. Come on down.
My name is Greg Darris. I live at 829 Far Hills, just right around the corner there. So this is my first time here. Been
Welcome.
a resident for nearly 5 years now. I am as Ethan knows, I know Ethan, and probably some people would know, I am a rabid dog lover and dog walker. And one thing that I know that people care deeply about in this area is their yards and their landscaping and everything else. And a thing of concern that I just ask if it's possible to get more dog disposal trash cans throughout the city. I walk good 5 miles a day with the dogs, and I run into maybe 1-2 cans in the walk, and it's not out of the ordinary to carry poop with me, and I am one of the people that actually does pick up after my dog. So that's a real big concern for me, and I know living in a street that, you know, people walk by and I pick up poop in my yard. So it would be awesome to maybe get some more of those. I don't know how much they cost or whatever, but it can't be a huge thing knowing what we get. And the other thing too is not knowing, especially with that, another concern in that regard on safety and just animal safety and everything else. I keep reading the rules for the city on fencing, and I haven't found anything in there on what the rules and the bylaws or whatever you would call them are for invisible fences. And that's a major concern. We not only own dogs, I own 2 pit bulls, to be full disclosure. We foster pit bulls. I have a 6-foot privacy fence that I make sure I keep my dogs very secured and locked up into. Not that they're a danger, but it's just a good policy. And walking my dog around, he is an 80-pound pit bull, so he can get agitated when other dogs come running at him. There are a number of electric fences in Oakwood that the line goes literally up to the sidewalk or the street when there is no sidewalk. And it's a major concern because I can tell you right now, I have seen dogs go through those. They are not 100% safe. And I don't know what the rules are. I've been looking for it to try and find it. I've seen that you can't have, you know, a certain fence over a certain height and this and that. I had to get all the regulations for that, but couldn't find anything on electric fences. And a possibility of putting forward a scenario where electric fences cannot be a certain space towards the sidewalk, public sidewalks, public streets. If you own a certain poundage of a dog. For example, I mean, I walk down Oakwood quite a bit, and there is a house that has a couple very large golden retriever type dogs that have come out, and I have had to deal with that issue. And I'm just telling you, as the guy with the pit bull on my leash, I'm the guy that's going to get yelled at when I'm done everything correctly. So I don't know what those rules are. If you guys have rules on that, do you know anything about that? Because there is nothing in your scenario that says or regulates like you do a 3.5-foot fence in your front yard, a 5-foot fence. I mean, I can't put a 6-foot fence on the side of my house. It has to be 5. When now my fence looks kind of awkward and ganky because for one section I have to have 5, the other I can have 6. But you can have an electric fence anywhere you want and free reign with whatever kind of dog, just let your dog out, roam free. Those dogs charge and attack. That is not a safety, that's a major safety issue. So I don't know if that's ever been a concern, what those rules or regulations are, and if they aren't any, I would love to put on some proposals for that regulation for sure, because I think it's an inequity to the community and to animals.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very
That's
much.
my fun time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Very good points.
Interesting on the number of
Doggy
doggy pots. I didn't want to call them poop stations, but doggy pots. We have 14 of them currently in the city, and they each cost around $375. But then there's an issue of ongoing maintenance as well. So we've got a map of those, which
Can
I
we get
think
him a map? Can we provide that?
I think
Sure, it's on the website.
It's on our website.
our
We're going to
website.
hear about our new and improved website tonight too. So, but we are taking a look at that as to, you know, do we want to add any more at various areas that might be less well served than others? So we'll take a look at that. I know as it relates to the invisible fences, there's some issue with, you know, private property rights, I think, that we've dealt with, and I know that our police chief has dealt with that issue, I think, and he's coming to our next meeting, and perhaps we could have him address some of those issues as it relates to, you know, dealing with dogs. We know we just recently passed an ordinance requiring dogs to all be on leashes. We currently didn't have that. I would say the vast majority of Oakwood dog owners do pick up after their dogs, and the vast majority do have their dogs on leashes, but we felt that it was important to make sure that that was in fact codified. So we'll take a look at that issue and see if there's something that needs to be done in that area.
I think it's a really good point. Frankly, I've never thought about the invisible fence aspect of it, but you're right. I mean, dogs will get past those things fairly easily. And then once,
Could you come back up to the
Yeah.
podium so people at home can hear you?
Across the street from Harmon, the elementary school, there is a large dog who is on an invisible fence. And the dog hangs out in the backyard, but there's no other fence. So the invisible fence is in the front. That dog running at full speed, 70-pound dog, down that hill is getting through that fence. I've had to literally go out of the way to like avoid that dog and in arguments on those situations. That's just one case. There are numerous cases, and I walk all around this whole area. So just as a, so it'd be great to be looked at. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address council at this time? All right. We will then close the visitor section, and we will go to legislation. And I actually have the first resolution. It's to grant approval of an amendment to the approved master plan for Sugar Camp and Point Oakwood development, effective signage for the Sugar Camp commercial portion of the same development. This resolution would amend the Sugar Camp Point Oakwood master plan to allow for installation of a new monument sign in front of Building B, near the corner of West Shantz Avenue and Sugar Camp Circle. The development is in the multi-use special planning zoning district. This is a special zoning district that was created in the waning years of NCR's ownership of the Sugar Camp property, written to maximize local control over the redevelopment of the site. Regulations for the district are sparse but strict, requiring almost all development to be done via public hearings with special use permit. When council approved the original master plan in 2007, signage needs for the development were not yet known. The only master plan provision related to signage authorized city staff to review and approve signs for the 3 entrances to the development, which occurred over a decade ago. As the development has matured, Sugar Camp has taken on more and more tenants, and Oakwood Investment Group, which owns the Sugar Camp property, wishes to replace the existing entry sign with a new sign that provides more space to list tenants. To that end, OIG filed zoning application 19-3 to amend the master plan and approve a special use permit for the new sign. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on application 19-3 on June 3rd, 2019. By a vote of 4-0, with one member recusing himself, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the application. The matter is now before council on that recommendation, and tonight we will hold our own public hearing on the application. Although I am introducing this as a resolution to approve, council is required to hold a public hearing on this proposal and has not prejudged the matter. At the conclusion of the hearing, we may vote to approve the application, approve it with conditions, or deny it. If council decides to approve it, we will adopt this resolution as is. If we decide to approve it with conditions, there is a space provided on the document to write them in tonight. In the event that we deny the application, I will withdraw this resolution altogether and ask the law director to prepare legislation consistent with council's decision to deny it. As a formality before we begin the public hearing, I move that the council adopt this resolution, and I would ask for a second. Vice Mayor Byington, do you have anything you would like to say?
I need to recuse myself at this moment. I am a resident who lives directly across the street from this development, so I cannot vote on this particular item. So
All right.
I will ask that I can stay at the dais, though. I will be quiet.
We will not make you go and sit next to the Oakwood Register reporter who's in the audience. Okay, you're welcome to sit here.
Mayor, I'll second that.
And, okay, and Mr. Stevens has seconded it. So at this point, we will convene the public hearing. Ethan Kroger will present a staff report, and then if anyone then wishes to address council either in favor or in opposition to this resolution, we would entertain that at this point. And that we would also, because it's a public hearing and as a quasi-judicial process, I think is the correct word, we would ask you to swear an oath that what you're going to say is true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief. But we'll go ahead and hear from Ethan first, and we welcome you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Again, welcome. We just have one application before you tonight, and that is application 19-3. The applicant, again, is Oakwood Investment Group, and the location of the project is West Schanze and Sugar Camp Circle. The nature of the request is to replace an existing monument entrance sign with a slightly larger monument entrance sign. Now, Sugar Camp specifically is located in the multi-use special planning district. And the multi-use special planning district does not have standard zoning regulations like other parts of town we might see. All developments in the multi-use special planning district is either done by a master plan or a special use permit. In 2007, Sugar Camp and Point Oakwood approved the master plan, and this allowed staff to do a few things. It allowed staff to review and approve signage at the 3 entrances leading into Sugar Camp. Now, signage was to remain consistent with the architecture of the site. Landscaping was required around the base of the sign, and the sign, if applicable, could have uplighting or shadow lighting. Now, the current entrance sign was approved and installed in 2007, and it was 6 feet and 2 inches in height, 7 feet and 8 inches in width, and it was roughly 7 feet and 3 inches away from the public right-of-way or the sidewalk. And the sign was not internally illuminated. So here's a picture of that current entrance sign there on Schanze. And the newly proposed entrance sign will be in the same location with the same stone base that the current sign has now. The height will be 7 feet 3.5 inches, and that increase in height allows for additional tenant identification. The width will be 7 feet and 8 inches, and the sign again will not be internally illuminated. Here's a comparison of what the existing sign dimensions are and what the proposed sign dimensions are. And directly below, to the left-hand side, again, we have our current sign, and to the right-hand side is what's being proposed. And I do have a larger picture that I will show you here so you don't have to squint too hard. So again, here's that artist rendering of what the newly proposed sign will look like. And this is a side profile of the sign along with the proposed colors. Now, the preliminary staff findings are set forth in the written staff report in front of you. And the existing sign was approved as a special use. It is staff's opinion that the proposed sign does not differ enough to change the special use analysis. Staff recommendations. The proposed sign is a good fit for the location. The sign complements the existing architecture of the development, and the dimensions of the new sign are reasonable in size and scale for the Sugar Camp development. In the beginning of June, the Planning Commission recommended approval to City Council on a vote 4-0, or 4-0, apologize. And ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions or turn it over, if you'd like, to the representative of OIG, who's also here tonight.
So it appears as though you just want to grow the sign by about a foot and a half, or 1 4 inches?
The applicant, yes, that's correct, sir.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for Ethan?
And these colorings here, that's obviously the base and the Sugar Camp. Would each tenant use their own colors like they did before?
I believe now, and Bob, you might be able to answer that question a little better than I.
You see how Orion is that blue?
Correct. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not sure.
Please, yeah.
Do we need to swear him in first? While we do this, before we listen to Mr. Posner, correct?
Mr. Parton.
I'm sorry, I misspoke, yes. Is there anyone else that wishes to address council regarding this issue tonight? If so, you could stand up where you are and we would swear all of you in as part of the public hearing. No, okay, so I guess you're it. So we'll go ahead and ask you to swear the oath.
Could you just raise your right hand, sir? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in any testimony before council tonight?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. And again, could you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Bob Parton.
Parton?
1916 Stamen Drive, Kettering.
Thank you. And the question that Councilmember Stevens had was about the colorings of the signs.
That has yet to be even discussed. We wanted enough room for, obviously, for all the tenants to be known on the sign, be located on the sign. That's the reason for making it larger.
Okay. I mean, I would expect that tenants, to the extent that they have logos, would want to try to have some marketing of their signs, maybe in colors that they use.
I've been asked about that a time or two, but just in passing, logo primarily, not much in the way of color.
Okay.
But again, that's at this time.
Okay. And I guess in looking at the number of spaces there, I don't know if I can count that. You have a room for about what?
There's
13
14
tenants
there.
or 14?
Including sheer financial.
Yeah. How many tenants are there currently? It looks like on the existing sign, there's only 3 or 4 on there.
Well, we're pretty much full.
I thought you had more tenants than what's on this sign currently, correct?
Right. We do.
So you're trying to get,
We're trying to accommodate all
trying to get
tenants.
the other tenants to
Right,
have.
exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
They've been very patient with us, and
yeah.
we're trying to accommodate.
Okay. But you would still have a few vacancies on the sign after the current tenants get their signage up?
Quite possibly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for him? All right. Do you have anything else you would like to add before we deliberate?
Not at all.
Okay. Well, thank you for attending. We appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. Hearing no one else wanting to give testimony, does anyone wish to open up our deliberation?
To close the testimony,
Well, I believe the testimony has been closed. Yes, we will close the public hearing. I apologize for that. Good thing you stayed up here. Okay. All right. Okay. Any comments or questions? Mr. Epley, Mrs. Hilton, Mr. Stevens? No. All right. Well, I plan on voting in favor of this since I issued the resolution, so I guess hearing no other comments, let's go ahead and call the roll. Lori?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Hilton?
Yes.
Mr. Epley?
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. This is one of the easiest public hearings we've ever had with Sugar Camp and Point Oakwood. It's your first one. Well,
You're coming back.
coming back next week, or next month, right? Okay. Thank you very much. All right. I think next on our list of legislation, Councilmember Stevens has an ordinance he'd like to introduce.
Thank you, Mayor Duncan. This is adopting Section 375.10, Shared Mobility Devices of the Oakwood Traffic Code, to enact a one-year moratorium on the use of shared mobility devices, including the placement or operation thereof in any public right-of-way or on public property, and offering the same for use anywhere in the city. This is the second reading of an ordinance to impose a moratorium on the use of, quote, dockless electric scooters and bicycles, quote, in city rights of way. Dockless electric scooters and bicycles, which are available to be rented on demand from unstaffed locations, have arrived in many cities suddenly and unexpectedly and have proliferated rapidly. Some of the most visible examples include Bird and Lime scooters, among others. These shared mobility devices are largely unregulated. They exist in a kind of legal limbo where, despite some level of public demand, they cannot be used legally on sidewalks due to their status as motor vehicles under state law, nor can they be used legally on streets due to equipment limitations and the lack of adequate mechanisms for titling, registering, and insuring them. As a result, there are several lawsuits pending around the nation, and the Ohio General Assembly and a number of other state legislatures are considering possible frameworks for the regulation of shared mobility devices. Until the General Assembly determines a path forward for our state, the problems inherent with shared mobility devices must be addressed by local government. In cities where shared mobility devices are available, they are frequently abandoned by users wherever they happen to stop, in streets, sidewalks, doorways, and other public places. This creates visual clutter and, more importantly, safety concerns, especially for the most vulnerable pedestrians. In addition, due to the spontaneous nature of these rentals and their appeal to young people, shared mobility devices are nearly always operated by users, often minors, without helmets. While we do not anticipate that Oakwood will be a major market for these devices, it is important to have legislation in place before the first vendor chooses to locate here. Council has initiated this moratorium legislation as an immediate way to address the hazards posed by shared mobility devices placed in and operated on public property. Our intent would be to revisit the issue in 1 year when the legal landscape may have become more firmly settled. This is the second reading of this ordinance, and I move the council adopt it tonight.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Is there any other comments or questions for Councilmember Stevens? Hearing none, Lori, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Hilton?
Yes.
Mr. Epley?
Yes.
And I believe Councilmember Stevens has another ordinance he would like to introduce tonight.
Yes, an ordinance to itemize and levy special assessments for the construction or reconstruction of sidewalks and appurtenances thereto in the city of Oakwood, Ohio. This ordinance is the fourth and final legislative step of our 2018 sidewalk, curb, and driveway apron project. It itemizes sidewalk repair costs that have not already been paid directly by the affected homeowners and authorizes these costs to be assessed by the Montgomery County Auditor. I move the council waive the second reading and adopt this ordinance this evening.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Because he is asked to waive the second reading, it will require a 4/5 votes of council to pass. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, Lori, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Hilton?
Yes.
Mr. Epley?
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Byington also has an ordinance he'd like to introduce this evening.
Yes, Your Honor. This is an ordinance adopting new section 17-801, short-term rentals prohibited. of the Property Maintenance Code and making related amendments elsewhere in the Property Maintenance Code to provide for the prohibition of short-term residential rentals throughout the city. This is an ordinance to prohibit the use of residential properties for short-term or transient rentals, which are defined as rentals having a term of 25 consecutive calendar days or less. Short-term rentals are becoming increasingly common with the proliferation of services, smartphone apps, online portals, and other rental-related companies in the so-called gig economy. Until now, council has chosen not to regulate them, treating them no different than a traditional rental property, on the belief that existing laws can adequately address noise, littering, criminal violations, property maintenance issues, and other problems that arise. The City of Oakwood is beginning to receive complaints about residential properties being used for short-term rentals, and the number of Oakwood homes and rooms listed on rental-oriented websites continues to increase. Council is mindful of the private property rights of each homeowner, but we are also aware that an entire neighborhood can be disrupted when a home is used to host an ever-changing cast of short-term tenants. One of the council's highest priorities is to preserve and maintain Oakwood's character for our residents. This is why we have determined that the short-term rental of residential property is inconsistent with the permanence, established character, density, and tranquility of Oakwood's residential neighborhoods, and is potentially detrimental to property values. The ordinance I am introducing will prohibit short-term rentals in the city with the goal of protecting and preserving these qualities for our residential neighborhoods. Key provisions include the ordinance only prohibits rentals having a duration of 25 calendar days or less. Rentals exceeding 25 days, such as month-to-month or yearly leases, will still be permitted as they always have been. Generally, violations would be treated as an unclassified misdemeanor, meaning that they are subject to fines only and not a jail term. There is, however, an enhancement provision for repeat offenders that can convert the offense to a fourth-degree misdemeanor, which can result in up to 30 days in jail. To avoid causing any hardship by impacting current listings or contracts, the prohibition would not take effect until November 1st of 2019. This is a first reading of this ordinance, so at this time I'm making no motion. We will bring it back up for a second reading on August 5th.
Thank you very much. And I know that you have an additional ordinance that you would like to introduce at this time as well.
Yes, this is an ordinance to establish an amendment to the organization and staffing schedule and the personnel schedule for the purpose of creating an account clerk 1 classification, to establish the hourly rate of compensation for that classification, and to reduce the number of employees in the existing account clerk 2 classification from 3 to 2, and by doing so declare this an emergency. This is an ordinance that updates the city's organization and staffing schedule and personnel schedule to reflect personnel changes in the finance department. Currently, the schedule lists 3 finance department employees in the account clerk 2 job classification, and there is no account clerk 1 classification. With this amendment, we will reintroduce the account clerk 1 job classification and establish a maximum pay rate of $23.91 for that position. We will also adjust the allocation of employees in the account clerk 1 and account clerk 2 classifications. This will result in 1 finance department employee in the account clerk 1 classification and 2 finance department employees in the account clerk 2 classification, with no effect on the total number of full-time employees. I am introducing this as an emergency measure because we anticipate a retirement in our finance department in September, and it is necessary to establish an account clerk 1 classification immediately to begin the process of properly backfilling and staffing that department. So I move that council adopt this ordinance tonight as an emergency measure for the reasons that I've stated in the ordinance.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second?
All right, so my understanding is we're not hiring anybody else. That
We're
was
just
a
changing their
long-winded way.
titles.
We're just
Yeah, I
changing their
know.
titles.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I want to say thank you that Steve read that, and since I always
Not
get
him.
stuck with the pertinences, he gets to say
Yes.
account clerk over and over.
Yes, it reminds me of the old Cheers movie with Woody Harrelson. You know, we can give you a raise, we just can't give you the title. Well, you keep the raise, I want the title. So, all right. Well, with that out of the way, Again, this also requires a 4/5 vote because we're waiving the second reading.
Yes.
Lori, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Hilton?
Yes.
Mr. Epley?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Byington, you have another appropriations ordinance.
Yes, Your Honor. This is an ordinance to amend Section 1, 2019 Original Appropriations Ordinance Number 4870 and Supplemental Appropriation Ordinance Number 4887 to provide for the appropriation of, 1, an additional amount of $240,000 to be expended from the Capital Improvement Fund for additional concrete street repairs, and 2, an amount of $240,000 to be transferred from the general fund to the Capital Improvements Fund for the City of Oakwood, State of Ohio, during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019. This is the first reading of a supplemental appropriation ordinance that will allow the city to perform additional concrete street repairs. The 2019 concrete street repair project is underway and is progressing very well, which provides an opportunity to schedule additional repairs that would otherwise be planned for 2020. The city manager has determined that these additional repairs are necessary and recommends that council authorize additional funding to make these repairs in 2019. The additional repairs would be completed as an extension of the 2019 concrete street repair project, which is ongoing. The city's contractor, TH Solutions, is already mobilized in Oakwood. This presents an opportunity for cost savings. Normally, the city would use competitive bidding to select a contractor for roadway work, but under Section 145.04E of the Oakwood Administrative Code, competitive bidding is not required where special or unusual circumstances make it advisable to work with a particular contractor on a sole source basis. Given that TH Solutions was the lowest and best responsible bidder on the 2019 concrete street repair project, competitively bid on February 27th of this year, and that they are already mobilized in our city, council believes that these are special circumstances that warrant dispensing with formal bidding and contracting directly with TH Solutions via a change order to the 2019 concrete street repair project. This supplemental appropriation will authorize an additional amount of $240,000 to be expended from the Capital Improvement Fund and the transfer of $240,000 from the city's general fund to the Capital Improvement Fund, which will be utilized to fund this additional project. I make the motion that council waive a second reading on this and adopt this ordinance this evening.
Do we have a second?
Second.
City Manager Klops, can you tell us what streets this additional funds are going to be used for?
Yes, I can, Your Honor. As you know, the contractor, TH Solutions, has been working on Ridgeway Road from about Park Avenue, or Park Road, south to the Kettering Bridge. And they have completed the entire western side of that road. And this additional money will allow them to circle back around and complete the eastern half of Ridgeway and back down to about Park Road. And at that point, Ridgeway will have been completely rebuilt. They will additionally be able to do work on Fair Forest Circle and on Park Avenue, just west of where we are tonight here, between Harmon and Oakwood Avenue, that one block essentially in front of Hawthorne Hill. And additionally, the one block of East Shantz Avenue between Far Hills Avenue and Oakwood Avenue. So those are 4 sections of concrete pavement that if you take a look at them, and I know you all have, there are many bad areas, primarily at the joints, and that's due to the freeze thaw in the wintertime here. It's old concrete. It just simply needs to be upgraded. And you know, we put this original project out to bid early in the season, very early, so we I think got really good bids, so I think this is a good deal for us to just piggyback on this project and take care of this work this year rather than waiting till next year rebidding it. And you know, I have yet to see unit prices for street work go down. So I think this is our best deal.
And while they're here, it's getting done quicker as well.
That's correct.
Right.
And while it is disruptive work, there's no way to take out 7-inch thick concrete pavement and put it back with a 7-day curing period and all that without it being disruptive. But this contractor, if you look at what they've done on Ridgeway, it is quality work, and so we have a good contractor, and I think we can, in the next couple months, knock out the rest of this work and be well ahead.
Yeah, and some of these areas they're rather old, aren't they? They're
Oh, they are.
20,
Some of
35 years maybe?
Exactly,
Okay.
right.
So they're, some of the, I mean, it's all different. They're not all the same, but it's over the time. They change over years, but some of these are excessively older.
That's
and
correct.
It's time to be fixed.
That's
right?
correct.
What do you believe the useful life of these concrete repairs to be?
Well, the patches themselves should last as long as the original street, so we're talking, 30, 35 years. Now, we've got we're not replacing all the pavement, so the sections of existing or original concrete are still there, and so, we can expect, sometime in the future, the cracking to start again at the joints, but, the contractor will seal with the asphalt sealant all those cracks, and as long as we keep those sealed, I think we ought to be able to stay off these roads for at least 10 years.
Okay, and am I correct, the contractors agreed to do this additional work at the price they quoted in February of this year?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions for the city manager? Any other questions or comments for Vice Mayor Byington? Then hearing none, we did have a second, correct?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. Hearing none, then Lori, would you please call the roll on this?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Hilton?
Yes.
Mr. Epley?
Yes.
And then finally, Mr. Epley has an ordinance he'd like to introduce.
Thank you, Your Honor. An ordinance to create a special fund within the fiscal records of the city to be known as the Refuse Improvement Equipment Replacement Fund, and to declare an emergency. This is a housekeeping ordinance to create a new fund within the city's accounting records to be known as the Refuse Improvement Equipment Replacement Fund. By creating a new fund, the city's finance department will be able to track capital expenditures related to a refuse program separately from other general fund capital expenditures. We currently have similar funds for each of our public utilities, but have not previously set up a capital fund for the refuse program. This fund will be administered much like our existing water, sanitary sewer, and stormwater enterprise funds, but because the refuse program is not a true utility service or public enterprise, money in the Refuse Improvement Equipment Replacement Fund will not be restricted and can be transferred back to the general fund if needed. After council adopts this ordinance, the fund must also be approved by the state auditor before it can be implemented. In addition to establishing the fund itself, the ordinance also authorizes the finance director to seek the necessary state approval and provides that if the state declines to approve the fund for any reason, this ordinance will automatically be voided. To allow time for the state to approve the fund and have it in place to allocate funding in 2020, I am introducing this ordinance as an emergency measure. I move that council adopt this ordinance as an emergency measure for the reasons stated in the ordinance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments for Councilmember Epley? Hearing none, Lori, would you call the roll?
Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Yes.
Mr. Stevens?
Yes.
Mrs. Hilton?
Yes.
Mr. Epley?
Yes.
That concludes our legislation this evening. Hiding behind the pillar that I cannot see is our Director of Personnel and Properties, Jennifer Wilder, and she has a staff report. Welcome, Jennifer.
Address you from the podium over here tonight because I'll be driving here soon. One moment. This is loaded here. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. I have a few updates from the Personnel and Properties departments, and then I'm going to spend a little bit of time cruising through the city's new website, so residents will be able to locate some of the new features, and so they can find some of the information that they're used to finding on our previous website. So first, just as far as the department updates, I'll touch on development and construction in the area, a quick business update, some new personnel faces and some changes, and then again, focus on the new website. So first, up is an update on Element Oakwood, the 84-unit development done by Hills. It's located at 310 Old River Trail across from the Old River Sports Complex and Lane Stadium. And this 84-unit condominium community will feature a variety of sizes ranging from 1 bedroom to 2 bedrooms with a den. Pre-leasing has already begun, and it's happening from the sister community, the Allure, also operated by Hills Development, which is located in Centerville. So previously, the developer planned to have a leasing trailer on site. They have now decided just to continue with the development and will lease out of the Allure site until their offices are open at Element. The estimated construction, though it won't be completed until March of 2020, they do expect the first tenants to move in by the end of November of this year. They do have a website operational, elementoakwood.com, for more information about the site and price points and that type of thing. Just up the hill, Russell Wealth Management is moving along at a considerable pace. Construction continues. And as you can see from the photo, the exterior of the building is nearly complete. As you'll recall, Russell Wealth Management came to council last summer and gained approval of a revised building plan, which includes the smaller office building you see prior to their approval that they had received in 2017. This 2-story, 16,000 square foot office building, you'll start to see some more of the site development that will include that access as a right-in, right-out from West Shantz. They've been in active construction, believe it or not, since October, and they do plan to open by the end of August. So I expect to see a lot of action there over the next month. Since my last department update in February, there have been a couple new developments in the Far Hills Business District. The Lily and Lou Boutique opened this spring at 2512 Far Hills. Lily and Lou is a women's style bar that provides trendy clothing, jewelry, and gifts, and we all got to attend their grand opening earlier this spring. And then Huffman Travel relocated within the business district, and they're now located at 2507 Far Hills, so just a couple doors down from their previous location in the building that they share with Maria Gossard Designs. In personnel news, the Department of Leisure Services welcomed year-round part-time Boulevard maintenance worker Darren Weatherspoon in April, and maintenance worker Philippe Previto retired last month after serving the Public Works Department for 27 years. Also, general service worker Brian Faruqi separated from the city in May after serving Oakwood as a refuse collector for 3 years. So we are in the current recruitment stages for those 2 positions and hope to have announcements for you shortly. So just a real quick overview. I'm going to focus now on the city's new website. We continue to be located at oakwoodohio.gov, but if you bookmarked our site and looked at it on June 19th or June 20th and then came back on June 21st, you were in for a real surprise. The new website was released on June 21st. Our new website is ADA compliant and has many new features that our previous site didn't. We still have all of the great information that residents are used to finding. Lots of PDF information, all of the Oakwood scenes and annual reports, codification updates, legislation, city council information, all of that is still available. It's just available in a much easier, more intuitive process. And here in a second, I will flip over to the new website. But some of the things that we now feature are a real powerful search engine that's available on every page, a new frequently asked questions section called Get Answers so that folks can find what they're looking for very quickly, a new report and issue feature, which is an app-like feature that residents can use to communicate directly to the staff member that's responsible for providing the service that they're looking for. Our new website will adjust to the viewer's device, and I have a few slides to show you how it looks on a mobile phone. We are seeing our new website, over half of the folks who are accessing it are doing so on a mobile phone, even more on a tablet, and then the smaller percentage on desktops and laptop computers. Again, the same community information and links exist, they're just in a new format. There's a nice section for prospective and new residents, as well as current residents who are just looking for what's going on in their community. A very robust section on our core city services, and probably one of our favorite features, the council meeting section, which keeps all of our meetings organized in a neat manner so that if someone were curious about what happened on an agenda, they could find the agenda, the minutes, and the video all located together. So I will take a moment and share the website, and I'll try to drive slow. I get really excited with the mouse, so if I get to going too fast, let me know. So this is the landing page, visiting oakwoodohio.gov. On June 21st, all of the servers for all of the City of Oakwood addresses that we've ever had will now point to this website. So if you've bookmarked it, give it a second, it will come up, but I think a lot of people will be surprised to see just how user-friendly and intuitive this website is. So on the main page, this top left section that shows City of Oakwood is always going to take you back to this main landing page. So no matter where you are, if you need to get back to the main page and find your way back through again, this will take you there. I'm going to go over what we call the buckets up here shortly, as well as some service features. As I mentioned, the powerful search engine tool that we have is available right here at the front of our website in the middle of this beautiful picture, and can be utilized by simply typing in, if you're looking for a permit, there's all kinds of things. Are you looking for a parking permit? This will indicate that there's a page about that. If you're looking for an application, this feature here indicates that that is a document that you can look at, you can download, you can print. The question mark, that's a frequently asked question. That's a get answer. That's a quick find if it's something that you're looking for. For example, that is, do I need a permit to do utility work on my property? So again, this little feature here is a credit card if you're looking to make a payment on a permit. So very simply, if you were looking for a permit and you did not want to go through the entire process of finding where permits are housed, you can use this search feature. This is located on the first page of the website, and then it continues on this menu. This little magnifying glass is on every page. So no matter where you're going, if you get lost, you want to start searching, that's the way to do it. Scrolling down on this main landing page are news and announcements and upcoming meetings and events. This is where we're going to post all of our news features. There's also a bucket for news and events at the top, but if you're just looking for what the top news or the most recent news or the most upcoming meetings, they'll be located right here on this front page. Continuing down is the Service Center. And this is a really neat feature that operates a lot like an app. The first section is the Get Answers. Really, these are just frequently asked questions. We sat down with the folks who answer the phone and asked them, what are the 5 things that you're asked the most frequently? Let's put those with the question and answer, so if it's after hours, people don't have to wait until tomorrow to get that answer. They might be able to go on here and say, what should I do with my yard debris? Does the city offer leaf mulch? Where should I put my yard debris? They can find the answer to that very quickly. They can even let us know if they thought that answer was helpful. If it wasn't what they were looking for, they might want to dig a little further into departments where we'll get into our core services, and there are pages of information about yard debris and where it should go and when we'll pick it up, maps that tell you what day we'll stop by your house to get that. So that's the Get Answers section, and I think a lot of people will be able to find very quickly what they're looking for in this section. My Services, it's really what's going on in your area. You can type in your address. This will tell you what the weather is like. Obviously, it's got our address here at 30 Park Avenue. Our hours, you can get directions from your location. If you enter in your own address, you can find information about your neighborhood. For example, there are traffic maps that are powered by Google. You can see what the traffic looks like around you. There are bicycle path maps. So it lets you know what services are available in your area. This is a feature that I can see continuing to grow, that the website developer is constantly adding new things there. So this will tell you what's around my address. The Make a Payment portion of the Service Center is exactly how it's described. It's a place where you can go to make a payment. Each one of these buttons will take you to the invoice website that we utilize through I'll just go right there. For example, if you want to make a water, sewer, or refuse payment, there's information on how that's collected, and if you click, it will take you out to the new site, invoicecloud.com, or you can enter your account number, your information, and proceed with making a payment. This is the same link that we had from our previous website. However, you can make a payment on several different things here. We've got income tax, housing inspections or permits, all other payments. Municipal court will take you out to the municipal court website, and then report an issue. This is where I was talking about the app-like feature that allows residents to communicate directly with the folks who could respond to that service issue. For example, if you found a pothole on your street and you wanted to enter the information, it brings up this form. Once you've entered this form, you'll receive a confirmation back saying, thank you, we've received it, and you'll hear from us shortly. But on the back end, this email is being sent to the service department and to the streets foreman, who can take a look at this, investigate if they need to find a closer location. You can even, on some of these, you can even attach a picture. That way, the streets foreman can respond directly to the person and communicate about the concern until it's resolved. So there are several opportunities there, and I can see this as people utilize this feature. I would imagine there will be more added. The next portion down on the website is our quick links. We're really placing exactly what we think should be in the quick links. What are folks looking for? Utilizing Google Analytics, we can tell where people are going, and Parks and Recreation is really what's driving the site right now. Over half the folks that come to the website are looking for Parks and Recreation information, a shelter rental, a map, a location. Second is trash. So these will change as seasons change or as services change. I could see this might be a place where around Christmas time and folks are looking, what do I do with my Christmas tree? You know, we might have a quick link out to that. So the quick links will change with what our residents are looking for. And last on this landing page is a map that's powered by Google. Going within there, you can see we've dropped pins on city locations. We've dropped them on parks. If you click on you can see this is Cook Park. You can get directions from your location, a summary of Cook Park, if we have a picture available there, so you can see what you're looking for, and you can see just how many parks we do have in Oakwood. Dine Local and Shop Local, these replace the previous business district maps. We've gone in and dropped pins. Now you might see some additional pins. Again, this is powered by Google, so we can't control everything that's on the map, but we can drop those pins in when we are aware of new businesses changing ownership. And then lastly, the schools. If I can, let me refresh that. Oh, I may have made it work too hard. So as I mentioned, the top, we call these buckets. The community bucket is where residents will find information, links out to other community agencies. It's also where we'll house new resident information, so folks that are looking to move to the city will be able to find information here. In fact, we're putting the finishing touches on a new resident page that will direct them to how to set up services in their area, how to find information about registering to vote, how to set up their trash, those type of things. The first is the Get to Know Oakwood. This is the section that I mentioned that links out to several other agencies and just has history. This is where I mentioned you could find Oakwood scenes if you were looking for a specific article, or the annual report is also located here. It also has a section of quick links for new residents, a little bit about history, again about our parks and city services. The nice thing about our new website is that these link to all link back to the same pages, so you're getting the same information on every page. If you click to city services, it's going to take you to the department bucket. Oakwood items for purchase, I always got to let people know, did you know we have a store? You can buy a flag, you can buy a banner, you can buy a scarf or a tie. We still have some street signs downstairs. We also have books and cookbooks available, so always a little shameless plug for Oakwood goodies. The next bucket is the departments. This is where you will see our core services. I mentioned the piece about the city council meetings. Residents can find under this button a list of upcoming meetings, but if they were interested, say they missed the June 3rd council meeting and they were interested in looking back at that, actually I'm going to go back May 6th because you just approved the June 3rd minutes, so I know they won't be there quite yet. Let's look at the May 6th council meeting. There's the agenda packet for the evening, as well as a link to the minutes, and then we can watch it on YouTube right there embedded in the same location. So if someone wanted an update on a piece of legislation, they would be able to find the agenda, the minutes, and the video all in one location. That same information is available for our boards and commissions. Similar features for the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. Their agendas and minutes are located there as well. And then other information on how to get involved. If people are interested in volunteering and being on one of our commissions, we have the application here, as well as all the different opportunities for folks to get involved in their city government. As I mentioned, the core services for the city, this information is available by department title. Parks and Leisure Services, if you're interested in all of our different facilities, you can find that information here. Different programs and events, things occurring at the OCC, questions about trees in Oakwood, all of this information is available in that department. Trash and recycling is another big hitter that we see residents looking at information. Our refuse handbook is here, the weekly schedule is here. If there's changes in pickup times, this is where we're going to post it. Obviously, it's in plenty of other places, but we do want to communicate that here as well. If you're interested in a job with the City of Oakwood, we list our employment opportunities here. Right now, we're advertising for a teen monitor. So we do see a lot of hits to this page. A lot of people are interested in working for the City of Oakwood. So that's a quick look at our core services. Information on income tax, I would imagine that a couple times a year this will be a very important page. Folks will be going there looking for their forms. All of those are available online. We're also creating some frequently asked questions. As I said, if we have a phone call and get the same phone call 4, 5, 6 times a day, it helps for us to be able to put that information out there, because for all the people who are able to get a hold of us during the day, there's probably twice that many who don't have an opportunity to pick up the phone during the day and want to find that information online. So we're constantly working to update and add more information to these pages. So to take you back, I'm going to switch over here a little bit and go into the mobile. But before I do that, I want to describe this menu bar at the top. We call these buckets, and these are where we house most of those links. These are also quick links to that service center that I shared right here. The question mark coincides with the Get Answers, the frequently asked questions section, the credit card with Make a Payment, and the warning sign to report an issue. And then again, the search feature. If you're accessing the website on a desktop, as I'm doing, or on a laptop, all of those menu items will appear across the top. However, if you're looking at it on a tablet or a mobile phone, it will move to the bottom. The little hamburger or pancake stack, as folks call it, those are the buckets that you saw at the top. The Get Answers information there, those are the topics that you saw, just laid out a little bit differently. There's our Make a Payment section, and there's our Report an Issue. When we first talked with the website developer about this, we said, well, you know, people are used to looking at the top, can we put it up there? And he said, yeah, we could. However, when folks are accessing this on their mobile phone, their thumb is right here at the bottom, and that's a quick hit for them to get to that. So it made sense, and that's why they're in the business and we're not. So that's a quick way to find it. But like I said, over half the folks that are looking at our website are doing so on a mobile phone. So we want to make sure that they can see how this menu bar functions. And I have, let me get to, I can show you. This is how it would look on a mobile phone almost exactly. You've got the hamburger, the pancake stack, that's our departments. And let's see. Oh, how did I get to the end there? So just highlighting, this is where those buckets are for the community, for the departments, for the news and events, the service feature, Get Answers, asking questions, frequently asked questions, the Make a Payment, and the Report an Issue. There are those menu items from the top. This is what the page looks like. It does reduce it. You do have to scroll a little bit, but the same information is there, along with the same links and the same access to videos and documents. That's what the service center looks like. That's our frequently asked questions section. If you were to click into the news section, there's a couple filters you can use there, but as you can see, it looks almost exactly the same as it does when you're looking at it on a desktop. And there is our powerful map powered by Google, where you can find all the information about what's going on around you, what's located around you, where our city services are located, where our parks are, etc. And there was like the Oakwood City Council page. This is that button I mentioned that has all of the public meeting information. That's located in that link is located in several different spots on our website, as we do see a lot of people looking for that information. And this would be a sample department page. This is the Engineering and Public Works page with these buttons on, when you're looking at it on the desktop, are featured on the left side, but on the mobile phone they come up right here, and you would just scroll down and all of that department information would be below that. So that is a cruise through our website. I would also like to mention that should there be an emergency issue that we might need to communicate something important to residents very quickly, we have the opportunity just under this menu bar to insert an alert bar. And we utilize it when our phones were down for a couple days recently, letting folks know that we knew our phones were not operating, but however 911 was in operation. We can use it if we know that there's going to be a lane closure or a road closure, if there's a boil water advisory. While we were in the beta phase, we used it to communicate to residents that our water was safe, because we were receiving so many phone calls wondering, why is Oakwood water safe but others around us is not? So we can use the alert bar. I would encourage that alert bar appears on all of our pages when we have it turned on. But if residents have a concern, I would encourage them, of course, come to this landing page first and see if there's something being communicated up there as well. I think that's most of what I wanted to go through as far as the links. I guess the last thing I would say is that we do have this little piece down here at the bottom, which is the feedback button. As we build and grow our website, we're constantly looking for feedback. Let us know, did you find what you needed? Is there something else we need to add? Do you have a question that we weren't able to answer? Use this feedback button to communicate to the staff, and in a day's turnaround time, we can have that information posted on our website if it's a question we see often. So that's really a summary of our new website. We're really excited and hope that residents will be able to find what they need very quickly. And I can't encourage them enough to use this search bar. I wish Google was this helpful. So that's all I have for the department update tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the website.
Questions for Jennifer?
No, great job.
I would just like to say that this website's incredible, and most of the time when people create brand new websites, they're really good, and then 6 months from now they're all stale. But you have the in-house ability to keep this dynamic and updated, and we're not relying on some outside third party to maintain that.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Our clerk, Lori Stasel, spends an inordinate amount of time updating the information. I mentioned Google Analytics just a little. It's the first thing Lori's checking on every morning, is to see where are folks going. She's moving things around, she's updating, she's checking news articles and making sure they're getting the attention that they need. Lori is on top of the website and is constantly pushing the staff to, hey, that's a great article, let's put that on the website. Hey, that's a good question, let's answer that on the website. So as long as Lori stays on the website, this will continue to evolve.
And the council members haven't aged in 8 years.
They have not. Still look great.
So we're working on that, right? Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Appreciate your efforts on behalf of our city.
Yeah.
That concludes our staff report. We now have a city manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have to comment on the website just briefly and publicly thank again Jennifer and Lori for all their leadership and work in putting this thing together and making it happen. As Jennifer mentioned, all of staff, I mean, for the most part, contributed in some way, led by the department heads, but these two here really did the heavy lifting, and Lori is going to maintain this thing going forward, and an example of the way she pays attention to this thing every day and throughout the day. Tom Long, our engineering technician, last Thursday sent an email out about AT&T doing some manhole adjustment work in the curb lane southbound Far Hills, and they run into a problem with an old manhole that needed a lot of more work than they could get done in one day, and they really needed to have the lane closed overnight. And so Lori paid attention to that and immediately put a notice on that top line there about that. Now, how many people saw it, I don't know, but even if just 10 or 20 or 30 people saw it, it made a difference for them. And, you know, as you know, southbound Far Hills at the end of the day can get pretty congested. So, anyway, thank you for that and for, you know, all the other work and putting this thing together. Well, let me start off by saying August 13 is a big day, right? That's the first day of school, and it's hard to believe that that's rapidly approaching. But as I kind of talk about every year here, you know, here in Ohio, you know, I'm from California, Sacramento, born and raised a long time ago, but you know, the construction season there is 12 months out of the year, basically. Well, here in Ohio, it's a very much restricted construction season, particularly for the outside work. And, you know, when you're talking about public infrastructure, roadway maintenance, sidewalks, all that exterior sort of public infrastructure, we're competing with everybody else around here for a relatively limited number of contractors. And each year we strive to, as I mentioned earlier, get out to bid early for our projects and then get the contractors here during that narrow summer window so that when school starts, for the most part, as much as we can have the most disruptive construction done. So lots is going on right now. The asphalt resurfacing project started last week, and the maps and all for the locations are on the website. But one need just drive around town, you'll see where that work is taking place. So that's underway, and the milling will occur for another couple days, more in the southern part of town, and then weather permitting tomorrow, or at the latest on Wednesday, Jurgensen will start overlaying. So we've done all the concrete repair work, checking the water valves, checking our own manholes well in advance of this project. So they're going to mill and immediately put the pavement back, and we'll have, you know, brand new streets. I mentioned the concrete street repairs, so that's ongoing and will continue for another couple months. The sidewalk curb and apron project is a big one. This year we're on the east side of town between Aberdeen and Patterson, area where you get a lot of pedestrian traffic, a lot of kids going to and from school, so important to get all that done before August 13, and we're well ahead of schedule on that. We're about a week away from that being completely done. So Archon Construction's done a good job on that. We're doing roadway restriping. A lot of that happens overnight, just repainting the yellow and the white lines around town. Vectren continues their work. In fact, 2 days from now, they'll be in my basement down in Volusia redoing my meter setting. So they, as I know I've mentioned here before, they're in this 10 to 12 year project. They're moving all the gas meters out of the basements and putting them in on exterior installations. So the work this year just happens to be happening in my area of town. It's also happening in some other areas further south, but all the residents there are getting good notification from Vectren. And if they stick to their current schedule, by 2022, all of the underground gas infrastructure in Oakwood will have been rebuilt, including the main distribution lines and the lines to every house. So that's a very important project. And then there's a little fiber optic work taking place up on the north side of town in West Shantz, and that's part of the MVCC project that's been in the paper a few times now with the 8 members of our southern suburban coalition building a fiber optic ring. So that's underway as well. So lots of construction, and but again, I expect that by around the start of school, a lot of this will be tapering off. So that's all I have tonight.
Questions for our city manager? What's the status of Vectren redoing East Drive? Has that started? Or?
That has started. In fact, today the Jurgensen milling crew was on East. So whether they finished all the milling on that street today or not, I'm not sure. I think they probably did. If not, that milling will be done tomorrow, and then roughly a week from now, that street from curb to curb will be completely renewed with new asphalt. And as I know I've mentioned before, Vectren is paying the approximately $38,000 to have that resurfacing completed, and that's because of the significant gas infrastructure project that they completed there last year.
Okay. It is now time for council comments. Councilmember Epley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no comments tonight.
Councilmember Hilton.
No comments this evening, Your Honor.
Councilmember Stevens.
No comments this evening.
Vice Mayor Byington.
Nothing from me.
Well, I have a 35-minute closing speech.
And
but
that's why we didn't
save that for some other time.
that until our next meeting. We do meet again on August 5, 2019. This meeting is adjourned.